Hey everybody, this episode is going to be all about the Ned Rig. I want to spend some time talking about this technique. I think it's a technique that everyone should be familiar with. It's going to help you catch a ton of fish, and it'll also catch some big fish. You can fish in all kinds of different conditions, all different kinds of depth. It's super versatile, and I think it's definitely a technique that you need to understand. So when we're talking about the Ned Rig, I'm referring to the Ned Rig as a finesse presentation. There's other ways that you can fish it on heavier line and in some a little bit, different scenarios, but I think most often you're going to be using it as a finesse presentation with spinning rods and light line and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. So the components of a Ned Rig are as follows. You have the jig head itself, and the reason it's a Ned Rig is because it sits flat on the ground, just like this. So when it's on the bottom, it's going to be sitting straight up like that, and then you have a plastic bait that's connected to it as well. Those two things right there make up the Ned Rig. It's super basic, it's relatively inexpensive to fish, and there's tons of different options out there when it comes to plastic baits that you can put on there and the different jig heads that are out there as well. A lot of different companies have their own. I make my own. I've used other ones that are available as well, and I've come to really like the one that I make myself. The reason why I like the head that I make myself is because it has a really good owner hook in it. If you followed my content for a while, you know that I do make Ned Rigs with a different style hook in it. And the reason I do that is just because of price point. These owner hooks have been expensive to get in the past. They're a really good hook, but I knew that having to sell them for the price point that I would need in order to make it worth me doing it, it was going to be at a price point that a lot of people wouldn't pay for. So that's why I went to the hook that I did. I still think that that's a good option, and it has a good style hook in it, and I have used and caught fish with those other hooks in it as well. But this is the one that I've gone to myself. It's got a little bit heavier hook in it than some of the other ones that I make. Another really big key factor to the head that I make is this keeper right there. That keeper keeps the plastics on really well, and it's easy to have in the mold, and I really think that having a keeper of that style really is helpful on getting the longevity out of your plastic. So the hook in here is a 5313 owner 90-degree jig hook. It's a 1/0 hook. I think it's the perfect size for your most typical Ned Rig baits. Now there are some guys out there that have wanted, weedless presentations or bigger hooks in it, but when your basic tried and true Ned Rig technique has a really small bait like this 1/0 hook is the perfect size. Now just to be clear, this video isn't about trying to sell you the jig head or the Ned Rig head that I make myself, because what I'm about to talk about is applicable to all of the different Ned Rigs that are out there on the market. It doesn't really matter whether it's mine or a different brand. They're all going to catch fish, and I just wanted to outline why I like the one that I make myself in the beginning of this video to give you some insight onto some things to look for when you're going to purchase your own baits. So when it comes to the Ned Rig, you're going to be fishing it slow. You're going to be fishing it similar to how you would a Texas rig worm or a football head jig. You're going to want to fish it slow and feel every rock or everything on the bottom as you're dragging it over, and that's when you're going to feel the fish either bite, you're going to feel that tick in the line, or you're going to start to feel that mushy heaviness where it's almost like the fish is swimming away with the bait, and that's when you're going to want to set the hook on this thing. Now when it comes to picking the specific plastic that you're going to want to use with the Ned Rig, is I've caught fish on the Z Man ones, I've caught fish on the X Zone Lures Ned Zone, and I've caught fish using half of a stick worm. They've all caught fish for me, but I think one thing to keep in mind is that to utilize this technique to the best of your abilities, you're going to want a plastic that floats. The Z Man ones float, the X Zone Lures ones float. There's a lot of different ones on the market that float, and that when that plastic floats, it's going to give your Ned Rig the best ability to be positioned just like this on the bottom. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is line choice. With the Ned Rig, you're going to want to use fluorocarbon line. I use a braid to fluorocarbon connection knot, so I have a braid main line that goes to my fluorocarbon leader, and I think that that's key for the Ned Rig. You want that line to be as invisible as possible. This is a finesse technique, so a lot of times it's going to be tough conditions, so you're going to want to use everything to your advantage, and fluorocarbon is going to give you that. With the Ned Rig, you're going to want to look for rods and reels that complement one another. You're going to want a good drag system on your reel, and you're going to want a rod it's in the medium light action, so that way you have some backbone to it, but also you're going to have that lighter tip that's going to help you cast this effectively. So those are some things to take into consider when you're choosing a rod and reel to pair up for this technique. So rigging the Ned Rig is simple. You have your jig head right here, and then you have your plastic as well. And you're gonna line the point of the hook right in the center of the plastic. And then you're just gonna force the plastic up the shank of the hook, and then you're gonna come out right about, 3/4 of an inch down the bait. And then you're just gonna slide it up the shank of the hook, and it's gonna come out, and it should look just like that, nice and straight. You tie that thing on your fluorocarbon line, cast it out, and you're gonna catch some fish. So I hope after taking in this information, you feel much more confident in the Ned Rig technique, that you feel like you can go to the store and buy the proper equipment to get the desired results that you're looking for out of the Ned Rig. Go out there, fish this technique, you will catch fish. It's a great technique to try on those highly pressured and tough days of fishing. Go out there, catch some fish on the Ned Rig. In the description of this video, comment your favorite equipment to use when throwing the Ned Rig, and let's get a conversation going about it. I really appreciate you watching this video. Please comment on it, please like it, please share it, and subscribe. Also hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss any more videos. I'm gonna have a lot more content like this coming out with how-to videos and stuff that I hope will help you catch more fish.